what's up guys, it's Aladdin. In today's video, I'll be breaking down Zuko's journey in Avatar The Last Airbender and discussing some key pivotal points that Zuko had endured throughout the series. So without making this intro too long, let me just get some stuff out of the way and then we can get right into the video. So here it is. I'll be doing a gift card giveaway for $20 once we hit 15,000 subscribers. All you gotta do to participate is be a subscriber, like the video, and leave a comment discussing anything that you liked about the video, and that's it. I'll pick the winner once we hit 15,000 subscribers in whatever video I have out, so good luck to everyone. Now lastly, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. It definitely helps out the channel grow and lets others like you stay tuned with the latest shows and movies. And also, don't forget to hit that notification bell so you guys can get notified right away when I drop my next video. And if you could, please leave a big like on this video. It truly helps out the video a lot, especially when trying to reach new audiences. Plus, it helps boost it up on YouTube's algorithm, so help your boy out. With all that out of the way now, we can finally discuss Zuko's journey. Now, Zuko has been a major key character in the show. From the very beginning, Zuko has left a staggering impression on us. He's either impacted us through the use of his journey to restore his honor, or he's either impacted us from his transition from an angry teenager to a young gentleman. His character is quite intriguing as well. He delivers this caring, outspoken attitude throughout the series, and you even see it displayed a variety of times. Zuko might seem like an arrogant teenager at first, however later on you start understanding him in a complete different perspective once you understand his past and the choices he makes throughout his journey. That's what sets his character to be a one of a kind, his ability to taking change and creating a meaningful, purposeful life without any hate or malice in his heart. When we're first introduced to Zuko in book 1, he ends up giving us that idea that he's lost and that he needs some sort of help. However, it also seems like the only thing that's keeping him going is for him to restore his honor so he can prove to his father that he isn't worthless. You see, when Zuko was exiled from the Fire Nation, the only thing that was crossing his mind was capturing the Avatar and proving to his father that he was capable of great things just like his sister Azula. He would go to great lengths to capture the Avatar, but every time he got close, Aang would just slip away, leaving him furious and disappointed for not being able to capture him. This would just irritate Zuko even more, causing his short temper to erupt more often. However, the counter to this was his uncle, Iroh. Iroh was the balance for Zuko, and without him in the picture, Zuko's whole personality as we know it would have been completely different. In a way, Zuko and Iroh both needed each other to find their flaws in one another and to improve their well-being. However, it was more say towards Zuko who needed Iroh the most. Iroh was just that role model that Zuko needed to see that everything will be just fine. In the very first few episodes of book 1, we get a glimpse of Zuko's aggressive behavior. For example, in the first episode, we hear Zuko express how his honor is being put on the line until he captures the Avatar. Take a listen.
Because their honor didn't hinge on the Avatar's capture. Mine does. This coward's 100 years in hiding are over.
That aggression and temper in his tone should already indicate the person that Zuko set out to be for this season. He has that hungry drive to capture the Avatar and will stop at no cost until he captures him. However, as long as Zuko continues to chase the Avatar, he starts to lose himself even more. Another example of this would be when Commander Zhao and Zuko were arguing about who will capture the Avatar first. Take a listen.
Capturing the Avatar is too important to leave in a teenager's hands. He's mine now.
As you see, Zuko quickly gets agitated and furious and wants to do something about it right away. His outraged behavior ends up causing him not to think clearly about the situation, causing him to lose his temper as well as himself even more. It isn't until the last episode of book 1 where we finally see Zuko overwhelmed and tired. This is where we finally see the progression in Zuko's character arc start to turn around. If you remember from the very first episode where Iroh tells Zuko that a man needs his rest and then tells him to get some sleep, Zuko doesn't even bother replying back to that since his only objection is to stay focused and to capture the Avatar. The last thing that's even crossing his mind is sleep. Now it isn't until the final episode where we finally hear Zuko say, "I'm tired." This is the moment where Zuko has finally arrived at his crossing point. Take a listen to these two clips from the very first episode to the final episode of season 1. You will notice a shift in his tone as well as his well-being.
Because their honor didn't hinge on the Avatar's capture. Mine does. This coward's 100 years in hiding are over.
Surprised that you are not at this moment trying to capture the Avatar.
I'm tired.
Then you should rest. A man needs his rest.
What's so beautiful about this is the fact that book 1 makes a complete cycle out of Zuko's character. From the very beginning, we see a young, angry teenager with full of rage and despise, and at the end of the season is overwhelmed and exhausted. Book 1 provides us that tiny glimpse in Zuko's journey and the obstacles that await him. It really tested his patience and his will of fighting, but it wasn't until the end where he finally had accepted the fact that he couldn't win all of his battles, no matter how hard he tried. Some things were just out of his control. In the beginning of the season, Zuko was lost, but towards the end, he would slowly start finding his own path and start thinking for himself. That's where we would finally see Zuko become the man that he was destined to be. Now for me, Book 2 is where I truly valued Zuko as a character. This is where we would finally witness Zuko making mistakes and actually being a human. Now when I'm saying actually be a human, I'm referring to the fact that Zuko is finally allowing himself to make mistakes and errors. He isn't as uptight as he was in season 1, which shows his character's progression. This is also the season where we would finally witness Zuko alone and making his own decisions without anyone's guidance of some sort. Even though Iroh was one of his biggest supporters, Zuko still wanted to part ways with him in hopes of finding himself. This ended up showcasing us that Zuko was willing to take that leap in finding his own purpose, even if that meant being completely alone and seeking his destiny. So in this first example, let's take a quick look at the moment when Zuko knew that he had to change his identity and appearance. In this first clip, we see Zuko and Iroh running away after being tricked by Azula that they were going to be welcomed back to the Fire Nation. Once they were in the clear, Zuko and Iroh would end up doing something very impactful, and that was cutting off their ponytails. For me, I took this as a symbol as a fresh start. The two ended up shifting their identity by just doing one little act, and that was cutting off their ponytails. Now, I understand that some may say it was perhaps for them to disguise themselves since they were now fugitives. But at the same time, I look at it as a new beginning where they both have this new opportunity to build themselves up. The ponytails were a gateway for them, and by cutting them off, it allowed them to seek new adventures and paths that they weren't able to do before. Now, the second example is when Zuko and Iroh would get invited to dinner from a local resident named Song. Zuko and Iroh would end up joining Song and her mother to dinner, but it wasn't until a conversation concerning the Fire Nation and fathers that would get Zuko in his emotions. Zuko would go outside to get some fresh air, and Song would later come out to hopefully comfort him. Take a listen.
I know what you've been through. We've all been through it. The Fire Nation has hurt you. It's okay. They've hurt me too.
What I really enjoyed about this particular scene was the sincere vulnerability and Zuko's look when he saw Song's burn marks. You can honestly feel his concern and worried the way he looked at her, almost expressing to her that he knew exactly what she was going through. What also stands out about this clip is the fact that Zuko doesn't say a word at all, but it's his reaction and emotion that connects you with his character. It almost feels like he wants to say, "I'm sorry for the pain we caused you," but at the same time, he doesn't want to say anything because he knows exactly how it feels to be in her place. Even though Zuko might be alone in his head, there are still other individuals who want to be there for him and listen to him. Now, in this last example, I want to talk about the episode Zuko Alone. This episode is solely all about Zuko and him reminiscing about the past and finding his way. Now, I won't discuss the whole episode just because that can honestly be a whole separate video if you guys would like that. I'd be more than happy to make a video all about Zuko Alone and breaking down some key moments and all. Let me know in the comments section if you'd like that. But for time's sake, I just want to talk about how Zuko came in this episode all alone and ended up leaving the episode all alone. In the very first few seconds of the episode, we see Zuko wandering around the southern part of the Earth Kingdom. Eventually, he would stumble across a village called the Plains Village. Here, he would meet a young boy named Lee. He would end up saving Lee at the end of the episode from a group of soldiers. Now, a quick pointer, throughout the majority of the episode, we don't see Zuko firebend one bit until the very last few minutes of the episode. He ends up exposing himself due to 1, losing against the head soldier Gao, and 2, he would get a flashback from his mother telling him no matter how things may seem to change, never forget who you are. From those two things, Zuko would eventually reveal to everyone that he indeed is a firebender and that he is the Prince of the Fire Nation. Despite him helping out Lee and the villagers, they were all just disappointed that he was a firebender. Zuko would end up getting on his ostrich and would eventually leave the village with disgust and hate behind him. Just as he came in the episode alone, he would leave the episode alone. This episode showcased that no matter how good Zuko attempted to be, he would still have others view him with hate and disgust just because of his background. It also displayed Zuko trying to become a better person by helping someone that was in need. I think it's fair to say that Zuko was never a bad character. I felt that his character this season was expressing reinforcing more of that idea of being lost and needing proper guidance. Book 2 Zuko really does reflect on Zuko's journey. It showcases the vulnerability side of him along with him making his own decisions without anyone whispering something in his ear. Now yes, this season also demonstrated Zuko making poor decisions, but what countered that was the fact that he was making those decisions by himself, trying to figure out who he is deep down as an individual. Book 3 Zuko is where we finally see the transition from an angry teenage boy to a wise, composed young gentleman. This is also the season where we finally see Zuko stand up for himself and take everything into his own hands and make his own decisions. In the beginning of the season, Zuko ends up returning back home to the Fire Nation due to the aftermath of Season 2's final. He returns home as a hero, but deep down Zuko knows that's not the case. It almost feels like Zuko doesn't want that label because the only thing that's concerning him is if he made his father proud as well as getting his approval. However, I'd be a fool to say that Zuko still isn't hard-headed. Throughout the first half of the season, Zuko continues to have this stubborn attitude on him, all due to his sister Azula. She ended up pinning him as the one who killed the Avatar, but deep down Zuko knew that that wasn't true. That feeling inside him started to eat him up because he knew that he couldn't take the gratification of something that he didn't do. This is the season where we would finally witness the transition in Zuko being redeemed. It all starts in Ember Island where Zuko would gather around the fire with Azula, Ty Lee, and May. Take a listen to this clip.
Come on, answer the question. Come on, answer it.
I'm angry at myself!
At this point, I felt like Zuko finally understood what it meant to be confused regarding his choices and decisions. He would shout out to everyone that he was angry within himself because he was confused on what was right and wrong. This was one of the highlight moments of Zuko's journey. We finally saw him admit that he was confused about what's good and what's not. It's easy for people to keep everything inside of them all bottled up. However, it's always tough to finally open up and to admit if you're wrong or not. At this point, this is where we would finally witness Zuko accept the idea that it's okay to open up to others and be vulnerable. Now let's take a look at this second example. In this example, Zuko was sitting in his uncle's tent waiting for him to get up from his sleep so he could apologize to him for his previous mistakes as well as for betraying him. Let's take a look.
Uncle, I know you must have mixed feelings about seeing me. But I want you to know, I am so sorry, Uncle. I am so sorry and ashamed of what I did. I don't know how I can ever make it up to you, but
This scene is probably one of my favorite scenes in the entire show, simply due to the fact that we see Zuko completely vulnerable here. He surrenders himself to his uncle and pours out all of his emotions to him. At this point, we finally see Zuko completely open with himself, something that he hasn't done throughout the last 2 seasons. What's so beautiful about this is the fact that Zuko manages to find his way back to his uncle even while struggling to figure out who he is. Eventually, Iroh would hug him and tell him that he always knew Zuko would find his way because he always believed in him. As I said in one of my previous videos, Iroh is the father figure that Zuko never had but deserved. Now in this final point, I just want to discuss how Zuko's journey shaped him to be the man that he is in the final episode. In the final moments of season 3, we finally see Aang and Zuko together in a peaceful state. In the 3 seasons of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Aang and Zuko would be like Tom and Jerry, constantly teasing one another. It wasn't until the final end where the two would hug it out and move on from their past. Let's take a look.
The world's so different now.
and it's gonna be even more different. We'll rebuild it together.
This is the moment where Zuko has finally found his rightful place among his peers as well as his nation. From the very beginning of the show, Zuko was conflicted with his thoughts and emotions, but it wasn't until the very end where Zuko would finally realize that his destiny was right in front of him, and that was coming to terms that all he needed was love and joy around him, and that's exactly what he got. Zuko in Season 3 is where we finally witness his complete transition. From all of his anger and confusion, he finally started implementing all of the wisdom that his uncle had provided him. One thing for certain is, Zuko has managed to release all the hate and grudges in return for love and prosperity. Zuko's journey throughout the 3 seasons has been a roller coaster from the start. From the very beginning, Zuko was stubborn and arrogant, but it wasn't until the end where he would start taking the guidance of his friends and uncle's advice, helping him shape his path. Zuko's journey is perhaps one of the most rewarding aspects of the show. We get to witness him experience all sorts of emotions while trying to figure out who he is deep down. Overall, I love to hear what you guys think. How do you guys think Zuko's journey was in Avatar: The Last Airbender? Do you feel like it was good, or could it have been better? Let me know in the comment section below. I'll have more content like this out for you guys soon, so if there are any characters or any anime shows or actors that you want me to break down, let me know in the comment section and I'll get back to you. But before I go, don't forget about that $20 gift card giveaway giveaway that I'll be doing once we hit 15,000 subscribers. All you gotta do to participate is be a subscriber, like the video, and leave a comment discussing anything that you liked about the video. Once we hit 15,000 subscribers, I'll pick the winner in whatever most recent video I have out, so good luck to everyone. But finally, I just want to say thank you all for watching, and if you haven't already, hit that like button if you enjoyed today's video, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't by now. Also, hit that notification bell so you guys can get notified right away when I drop my next video. If you don't mind, share the video if you thought it was good and want others to see it. Thank you all once more, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.